Welcome back to Potions and Processing. I am your host, Raven White. In last week's episode, I showed you my new tattoo, and we talked about my Christian school experience being branded as a witch. What a strange foretelling. How many of you were branded as witches in your Christian school experience? I would like to know. Please drop a comment below and tell me, were you branded as a witch in your Christian school? Please let me know. After I was branded as a witch, I was given an in-school suspension, which consisted of me being put into a room in the school where I sat and did schoolwork by myself. I was not even supervised. I just sat in some room and was alone all day. Then I went home and was locked in another room for the rest of the day. You can't blame me for wanting to do witchcraft, because that was my life, being locked in a room, and then going to school and being locked in another room, and then going home and being locked in another room, and then being beaten occasionally, and then going to school and having my 5th grade teacher say he wished that there was still spankings allowed in school because he would spank me. Which, by the way, that's weird behavior. That's weird. It's weird for a teacher to tell a student that they want to spank them, especially a male teacher to tell a young girl student. Didn't mention that in my last video, but that's some weird behavior, weird predator behavior. Anyway, I also talked about Also, at the end of last week's video, I talked about how then I was told that my real problem was that I wasn't saved, that Jesus wasn't in my heart, and that if I did have Jesus in my heart, my problems would go away. So let's talk about that a little bit more, because I feel like that warrants more of an exploratory conversation. After the witchcraft bit, after all of that went down, the principal of the school decided to make me like his pet project. So he called me to his office where we had one-on-one conversations, and we talked about my faith and my studies and what was going on in my home. Now, my home life was something that I had been schooled to not talk about. I was warned all of the time, you don't talk about home life because people won't understand. People won't understand because people don't understand God, and they don't understand the Bible the way that we do. That is what my stepfather told me all of the time. That is what we were taught in our home all of the time. People don't understand faith the way that we do. People don't understand religion the way that we do. And they are still prone to the devil in ways that we are not. Plus, you just didn't talk about your family. You just didn't talk about things you did at home in the outside world. That was just bad behavior and bad manners. When the principal sat me down, we kind of talked a little bit about what my home life was like, and he kind of tried to be like faux friendly, like he wanted to be my friend and figure out what was going on and what would lead me down the path to doing witchcraft, which, by the way, I was still being held responsible for, even though I wasn't the one that brought it into the school and I wasn't the one that had initiated it. But that didn't matter because I had bad grades, and that somehow meant I was a liar. Thanks, Diane. I kind of told him that I was just unhappy, that I just kind of just struggled. But most of the time when he said, but why, or he tried to probe for more information, I just said, I don't know, and just kind of gave non-committal answers and avoided eye contact, as most abused children will do. He then asked about my faith and about Jesus, and I kind of saw this as a way to get out of having to answer any other kind of difficult conversations. And so I said, no, I'm not saved. No, I don't have Jesus in my heart. This was a lie. I was saved. I did believe in Jesus, and I already had all of that, like, previously established. But I knew that this was a way to kind of get out of talking to him anymore. And so I did what I had to do, which is something that I had already learned how to do at home. You did what you had to do to get out of doing difficult things. And I knew that the longer I sat in that principal's office's chair, that the longer he was going to probe me for conversations and questions. And I didn't want to have to talk about what was going on at home. So I lied and said, no, I don't know about Jesus. I don't have Jesus in my heart. And I'm sad and making bad choices because I'm friends with the devil. Now, how old is a fifth grader? Like 10, 11? That is a really heavy conversation to be forcing on a child that's 10 and 11, in my opinion. But what do I know? I'm a witch after all. Then he walked me through the sinner's prayer. He had me accept Jesus Christ as my savior. I shed a few tears to make it convincing, and then left the office. I went to lunch and felt bad, very bad. I felt awful because I had lied about not knowing who my savior was, even though I did in fact know who my savior was. One thing that I had been taught was you don't lie about not knowing Jesus. You go to death for Jesus if you have to. You don't ever say that you don't know who he is. You don't ever deny who your savior is. And I had done just that. And so I felt pretty crappy and pretty miserable and pretty bad about myself. And I remember praying at lunch that I hoped that Jesus would forgive me for pretending like I hadn't already been saved. But I didn't say anything about it at lunch. I didn't say anything to my classmates about it, even though when I had left the principal's office, he had said, now you have to go out and spread the good word to make it real. Because it's not real if you don't tell anybody. It's not real. You're not really saved unless you tell everybody that you were a horrible sinner beforehand. And the reason why you were acting so badly is because you weren't saved. And you have to go tell your classmates that you have officially accepted Jesus into your heart. I wasn't about to do that. I wasn't about to do any of that. I thought, well, it's over now. I've done the deed. I can move on with my life. Wrong. The next day, the principal called me back to his office to check in and see how things were going in my new Christian walk of life. And he asked, did you tell anybody? Did you tell your classmates that you were a born-again Christian, that you've accepted Jesus into your heart? And I said no, because in my heart of hearts, I wasn't a liar. I didn't like to lie. To which he replied, well then, I guess you're not really saved. I guess you didn't really mean it. So he had me say the sinner's prayer again and had me go back out to my lunch. And then at lunchtime, I had to tell all of my classmates that I was a terrible, horrible sinner, that I had been horrible and mean and hadn't been saved before, but now everything was fine because now Jesus was in my heart. And all of my problems were now going to go away because now I was saved. But guess what? Just because Jesus was in my heart didn't mean all of my problems were going to go away. My grades still suffered. My lack of help at home did not improve. I was still living locked inside of a cage. Nothing around me got better, and nothing changed. And the principal continued to blame it on me instead of anything else around me. I don't really remember how I got the after school detention, but I got after school detention. And I remember having them tell me to write Bible verses over and over again about slothfulness and laziness that had to do with me not doing homework, not turning my homework in. Bible verses about not lying. I remember telling the principal that my home life was hard. Not in so many words. I didn't say I'm getting beaten at home. I didn't say I'm getting locked in a cage at home. I didn't say I'm being raped at home. I didn't have the vocabulary to understand what was happening to me. I didn't know the rape word until I was like 20. But I told him that I had a hard time at home. I told him I was sad at home and I was struggling. I remember telling him that I didn't feel like my parents always loved me. I was not met with any kind of support or any kind of help. I was met with, you just need to be saved. You need Jesus in your heart. And if you have that, that will be enough. That will be enough to sustain you. A 10-year-old, 11-year-old, how old was I? It doesn't matter. I was just a kid. There was one teacher. She was the third grade teacher, I think. And I remember when I had detention, she was confused why I would have detention. Whenever she saw me, she always had concern on her face. And I think that She was the only teacher there that actually ever saw me. I was never in any of her classes because I came in too late. But I always wonder that if I'd ever been in one of her classes, if she would have done something, if she could have seen me. But I also always wonder that if she had seen me, why she didn't say anything, or why she didn't wonder, why nobody wondered, why no one said anything. A couple videos ago, I talked about how people are often so quick to discredit me when they hear about all of the different things I've experienced in my childhood, because how could I? How could I have gone through so much someone would have noticed? Someone would have seen. I promise you they did. Lots of people did. People close to me did. People next to me did. People in the grocery store. People at the school. My neighbors. Lots of people did. But very, very, very few people actually said something. That's this episode of Potions and Processing, and thank you for sitting with me for it. I feel like these are hard to get through. These are hard to get through for me. They're hard to get through. I mourn the part of me that was that child, because that child that was targeted so hard for not being good, for not being a real Christian, for not having Jesus in her heart, she did. That little girl was probably more of a Christian than all of those people combined. That little girl prayed and believed with every part of her being. She was so betrayed and so let down by every single person around her. The things that I had to do, the qualities that I had to adapt, survive, it's astounding. Children are resilient, but they are breakable. When bad things happen to children, I hate when people say that it will be okay because children are resilient. Children are resilient, but children are breakable. They are crackable. And those things that happen to them, their bodies won't ever forget. And I want you to remember that. While you're out here saying that our children are resilient, our children are crackable and they will remember. Maybe not in entirety, maybe not as whole memories, but their bodies will remember and their bodies will hold on to it. And then when they become older and they hit their 30s, those bodies that have been holding on to those memories will suddenly start to hurt. And they'll have pain like they have never imagined before. And they'll have autoimmune diseases. And they'll have cancers. And they'll have lung problems and heart problems. Because we told our children that they're resilient. Our children shouldn't have to be resilient. Our children shouldn't have to be made strong for the world. Our children should be allowed to be soft and playful. They should be children. God forbid our children end up like me. I mean, I'm pretty great, but I could be so much better. Remember, we may be different species, but we're all part of the same family. So please be kind to yourself, be kind to others, and I will see you next week.